That's 3 chords. Surely to God you can find 3 notes in there. I thought 3 notes, I thought I can. And so, my father had been a bass player when he was young. And he admitted to me he once played the bars on Beale Street when he was 18, 19 years old. And when I went to my father, I said, look, it's just this simple Elvis music. That's all noise. I don't like that Elvis. I said, well, look, we won't get into the music. I said, but could you show me how to play that? Well, son, he says, I'll show you how to tune it, but I would never want you to go into the music business. He looked at me and he said, because you will never, ever make any money in the music business. I said, well, Dad, I'm just going to play with these kids. We're going to do sock hops. We're going to do That's All Right, Mama, all the early Elvis stuff. Okay, he said, I'll show you how to do it. Well, I would come home from school every day at 3 o'clock, and I had a little RCA player with 45s, you know, with the big holes in it.
Yeah.
And the first song I ever tried to play was That's All Right, Mama, with Scotty and Bill. Bill played that. And I'm trying to learn. Bill played it upright and go, and the chicken was hitting the neck with your fingers. I had blisters all up and down. But I wouldn't quit because it was fun, you know? And I would come home at 3 o'clock and play until 9. And my mother would come in and say, that's it. They're turning this noise off. They're all going to bed. But as the weeks went by, I was starting to figure out how Bill Black did it. The music was simplistic, okay? And we started playing some sock hops, they called it, down in Alabama. And then there was another aspect that came into playing music. One of the beautiful young girls had never noticed me before. So we started playing around, and a year later, at the age of 16, I'm starting to figure out the form of simple rock music. And I was invited to play in an R&B band. And we're going to play James Brown, Bobby Cleveland, Ray Charles. And so my father helped me finance a few bass. As a matter of fact, it was a bass I played when I was over the next couple of years, I'm playing a bigger variety of music than Elvis. But also, I'm living in an area of Alabama. It's called Muscle Shoals. Have you ever heard of Muscle Shoals? A young fellow named Tom Stafford had started a publishing company. And he approached David Briggs and I, and David's my partner, and he's not here this morning. But David played piano, and I played bass. And Mr. Stafford said, I'd like to hire you guys to come and make demos on new songs by new writers. I was 16 years old. A little demo room upstairs over the corner job. And we said, well, can you pay us anything? Well, Tom was the manager of the Princess Movie Theater. I can't pay you, but I'll get you in all the movies. We'll take it. So we found ourselves climbing the staircase to Tom's upper offices where he had this primitive 4-microphone system. And we started to try to figure out how to play an original part on an original song. Everything I was playing in my weekend band, I was taking off the record. If it was Stormy Monday by Robert Blueblatt, I was learning the part the bass player played, but I wasn't doing it. So we go up there after school every day, and we're coming on to the last year of high school. I'm 18 years old, and a handsome young black man from Sheffield, Alabama, came up the staircase, and he had great songs, and he had a great voice. Okay? His name was Arthur Alexander. And about 6 months later, an entrepreneur named Rick Hall constructed a better studio. At this point, I started college, and we come over, and we record 3 songs with Arthur. We're 18 years old. Rick Hall took the tape to Nashville and made a deal with a major record label. The record came out, zoomed up the charts into the 20s, sold 800,000 records. And 6 months later, I dropped out of college to go and play at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals. So my father was irate. He wanted me to get a business degree so I could join him in the insurance business. He may have been right. That was a pretty good business in years to come. But that early hit when we were 18 years old with Arthur Alexander showed up in London. George Harrison of the Beatles tells me this story 7 years later. One day John Lennon comes to a rehearsal, and he's got that 45 from Arthur Alexander. And so Arthur, and they learned a couple of Arthur tunes and recorded Arthur something. But that was the beginning of the Muscle Shoals. And we developed our skills in Muscle Shoals, opened for the Beatles when they came to New York in '64. They wanted to meet us. Okay, you know, after that, George Harrison said, we tried to book a different rhythm section for every city we played so we could meet all the great players that were playing the records. So the Muscle Shoals rhythm section opened for the Beatles February '64. End of '76, early '77. Colton called me one day, and he said, could you come over tomorrow morning and put a bass part on a whistle track? And I said, I didn't realize Elvis was recording. We've been following him around, recording all the shows live. And a few nights ago, I think it was Saginaw, Michigan, Elvis went over to the piano, unexpectedly went over to the piano. He sat down and started to sing that old Elvis Brothers song, Unchained Melody. Mm-hmm. And the band just sort of stood there because they hadn't rehearsed it. Elvis did this great vocal, but he played a bad note of the piano part, okay? Right in the first chorus. And Bill said, could you come over tomorrow, we're gonna fix the piano part. He said, it's one of the best vocals Elvis has ever done. Then I want you to put the bass on. And then we're gonna put the Las Vegas style orchestra. And the next morning I came over to RCA's Studio A. And, oh, Bob, can you hear me okay? Because I was trying to say, don't get off the mic too much. Just yell at me if I do, okay? So the next morning I go into RCA and Bobby Ogden is out in the room with Skyline. And he can hear Elvis's original piano part. And he's trying to play perfectly with that part. Except Bobby will hit all the right notes. No. And, so I'm watching Bobby. He gets it in about 15 minutes. And I'm talking to Dalton. I said, well, how is the key? We always call him the key. Even in the studio, we'd say, hey, King, you know, he said, what is it, Clyde? Irreverently, we call him. I said, so how is the King? Well, I said, Putt, yesterday he ate a dozen banana splits. Oh. And the day before that, for breakfast, he had a pound of bacon and a dozen eggs. And I said, well, is it just obesity? Is it just, because we can fix that, can't we, you know? He said, well, he's hard to talk to, you know, he gets into these moods. And I said, well, someone needs to do something. I agreed. Well, I plugged my bass in and I started listening. You probably heard the track. You know the music, don't you know? Well, you hear me fumbling around up high trying to find something. It's all on tempo. And I went back to the office that afternoon. My secretary, Ann Keener, was trying to find a house over in Hawaii. I was taking my children to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And Ann said, I found a house, it's on Kauai. You know, you leave in a couple of weeks. And a few weeks later, we were on the Havilland Otter coming in over Honolulu. And we landed, went to the house, played golf with my son every day. He was 15, okay? He beat me every day, by the way. And we came in from golf one afternoon, and my wife said, could you run down to the general store? Because we need milk, eggs, feeding. sure, okay. So I go out, and I got my little list, and I start up to rent a car, turn on the radio. They were playing an early Elvis record, like Don't Be Cruel. And I smiled, I thought, wow, they never play Elvis on the radio anymore, you know? And I'm thinking, I'm gonna call this jock and thank him, okay? And as soon as that song was over, another Elvis classic. Well, it was only 3 miles down the highway, and I'm smiling. I parked the car into a cocoa bar, and I went inside the little general store, and I've got 5 or 6 things, and I'm standing behind one of the California college kids who would come over there in the summer, and they would have a backpack and a small tent, and they'd live up in the hills. And I'm standing there behind this hippie kid, and the hippie kid leans over the cashier. And the cashier, yes, said, did you hear about old Presley? I looked up, and we're looking at the kid. He checked out. I couldn't believe it. He couldn't be dead. I just played this bass part a month or 2 before. What happened, you know? I threw some money down, ran to the car, and turned on the radio. This morning at 4 a.m. Well, it's not a moment we like to remember, is it? And, but his music didn't die, did it? You know? And you're all here.